Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage. We are back in the shop today. We spent like a week doing that farm cleanup where we were over my birthday week, where you guys saw we were digging out and saving all that rusty iron, and we are back in the shop. It's kind of nice to be back in the shop and work with like normal tools, not in a field and all of that. So today what we're going to be working on is actually the Schroll Coupe gas tank situation. So you guys may remember when we were tearing it apart, this is the gas tank out of the car. We have it just sitting here. It has rotten old fuel in it that is horrible. We like opened it up just to take a look in it, and it is really, I mean, you can't really see in there. It's really bad. There is some fuel left in it, which stinks to high heaven, but it's just really, hey Moon, it's really crappy. So I think what we're gonna do is actually save this neck here to use in our other gas tank, which I'm gonna walk in. So I'm gonna cut that off to use this, at least a piece of the old gas tank, but to clean that tank out and try and get it to work, I think is gonna be a nightmare. So we're probably going to abandon it, unfortunately. So what we have is, not that tank. I had bought for another project a stainless round tank that I had sitting on the shelf for a couple years now, and we just like started test fitting it, and here it is. And it looks like it's going to work pretty well. So we're actually going to push this way back and kind of sink it underneath there. With the way that the floor rolls down, we can actually sink it down underneath. Now the one thing we're going to have to do is take this neck off. So I think we're going to knock this neck off and actually put the sender right there. And then we're going to try and put the neck over on this top corner here and have it come up. So we're going to work on getting a gas tank in this thing and maybe even get some fuel lines kind of figured out and plumbed. And we're getting one step closer to getting this thing kind of like a car. Okay, so I could smell that fuel just from here.
Freaking awful.
Good, the car will smell like a true barn find still. Smells like crappy old gas. We're gonna go to about there, I think is about what we said, something like that. I love to get it right there at the edge of the bead like that, because that's a good spot to push on.
Yep.
Something like that. Alright, where's that neck at? Man, that thing's stinky. Love to use this neck, but I don't know if it's gonna work.
Right.
Alright, so after some more talking, we kind of made an idea and just keep it simple. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate, we have to rotate this tank a couple degrees to get the outlet to be straight down. Right now we have it turned a little bit just to get it all to sit in there. So we're going to leave the feet right in line with these beads here just for kind of symmetrical reasons, and center the tank up, and we're going to punch a hole in the floor. There's a cross member that's right where the tank's sitting, which is good for, you know, strength reasons, obviously, for the weight, but we need to punch a hole in the floor just in front of that cross member for that fuel outlet to come out. So we can plumb our fuel lines underneath and it doesn't run into that cross member. But what we need, the big thing we're fighting and kind of figuring out is this neck. So I think what we're actually going to do, we were going to cut it off or use that other neck. And honestly, I think what we can do, and Steve came up with this idea, I'm just taking credit for it now, but we could pie cut this in here and bring the neck down at a couple degrees to give a slight angle to this neck that's already here. And then that'll hopefully give us the angle we need so we can get, you know, gas nozzle in there to fill the gas. So I think that will work out all right, but we're gonna get this tank kind of bolted down and the hole for the outlet in place. Then we can really dial in that because we can kind of, you know, rotate it just a little bit and everything's where it needs to be. So kind of got a game plan finally. All right, so right about there. So we should be able to, hopefully we can find that under there.
Well, we got a pretty good idea of its general area, I guess. there. That looks like it's right over the hole. We're pretty close in, huh?
Yeah, we're actually sitting off the hole. Like the neck's not even, that part's not even sticking down, so if we get a fitting on it. I almost want to put a fitting on it just to locate the damn thing. So so it sits in the hole, and then we can get these feet situated. There we go. All right, so we're putting a little 45 fitting on this just so it fits through the floor right. We cut off the old fitting and I got a stainless 45 here with some pipe thread, so we're gonna try and get it tacked on. But the hard problem of holding it in place. It's all good. Are you?
It's just a hair open at the top. I can just see a bare split at the top. Yeah, I'm trying to rock it a little bit, make sure it's as flat as possible.
Well, if you just have it, like we can move it a little bit after my first tap.
Oh, okay.
So if you
just get it straight.
It's more worried about square.
Gotcha.
I mean, the holes covered.
Yep.
We're not like. Now we can kind of adjust from there, but. Just take it. All right, so making up a fuel line here, we got the elbow welded on or tacked on, and I have fitting on it with a little piece of rubber hose, and then we're having a hard line that's going to go from the tank over to where our fuel pump will be. And we're using our high-tech tubing bender here on this larger diameter tubing. The tubing bender that I have for the bend I wanted to do was kind of making it a little too tight and kind of starting to kink it. So we're going to go old school here. And I like the bend on these primary tubes on this on these headers. So we're gonna just carefully bend around to get the bend started. At least this engine's doing some good sitting here. There we go. It's getting about where we want. We'll take it over and test fit it. Alright, so I got my fuel line kind of made here, and we're going downhill, so all the fuel should be flowing the right way for the fuel pump so it doesn't have to suck real hard. Nice thing I found here is there's these two bolts right here that I believe are for like splash apron or running board. I forget what these holes are for on the frame. And they actually say that you're supposed to kind of point, when you look at the manual for these pumps, slightly uphill a little bit to keep it from doing vapor lock. So I'm going to follow the instructions, but actually these two bolt holes right here almost line up perfectly with what I need. So I'm going to take some bolts here and fit them through, and then we can get this mounted up, and then I'll run a soft line from the filter that's right on the pump, the threads into the pump, up to our hard line. We'll kind of have all that figured out so we can go ahead and lock everything in up at the top, and we should be good with that elbow that I tack welded on. I think all this will work out pretty good. They also suggest that you mount this on the frame. I was going to mount it up on that cross member underneath to try and get it closer to the gas tank, but I think it would have kind of been in the way, and it's kind of in the danger zone with the drive shaft and the shock and all that stuff going on. So by putting it, kind of hiding it under the frame rail here, I think it's a better location. We'll just put some little bit of rubber underneath of it before we do the final mounting so that it helps with vibration and also deadens the sound a little bit. But I think this is a pretty good spot for it right here. right, so I got the tank finally is bolted down with the straps, and I tightened the straps up most of the way, so everything's kind of sitting where it needs to sit. By welding those tabs, we kind of just showed briefly, and it did a couple of things. We welded those tabs into the sub rails, which is a kind of more structural part of the car, so those little tabs are going to give some extra strength, so the gas tank can't just rip out of the floor. So having them welded to the cross members and also to the floor as well, it makes it nice and strong. And then also I welded those nuts into it so that we have blind fasteners, so that we can just tighten these bolts down with the straps open, slide the tank in, and then tighten everything down so that we don't have to fish around for holding the nut underneath. So the big problem we're going to have here is, and I've been fighting this since the beginning, this car is channeled so freaking far that that neck is too high. So I'm going to have to section that neck down and make it possibly almost flat. I have a little boat gas tank cap that we could put pretty much flush if we need to, but we'll see where it's going to be. So you can see when we close the trunk lid, it basically hits somewhere up in here. And it's not going to work. So we need to section this down, but this is at a good spot where I can, if I section it down, you can get a gas nozzle pretty easily in there, and I think it should be pretty good. So in the front here, you guys can see I actually mocked up like cobbled together an old seat that I took apart. So we got that. I didn't really shoot a video on it, but so you can see we got the pinch bolts in the front, little rubber feet underneath. We got our hose coming up there right into our elbow that I welded on. So that's all working out real nice. I got everything pretty much where it needs to be. Now we can start working on the filler neck and the sender, now that we got all that done. So I'll take this tank back out for the 100th time, and then we're gonna cut this neck off flush and then figure out where it needs to be. Alright, so got the gas tank in and it's all mounted, it's cinched down, everything's nice and tight, and it is very sturdy. This is one of these projects, I was just joking with a couple friends that this was something, I'm like, oh, I got this new tank, I'll just throw it right in the car, it should fit right up. 2-3 days later, here we are. So, ton of work. Basically had to modify like everything on the tank except for like its actual shape. Between shortening the gas cap filler neck, adding the hole for the sender, and cutting off the bottom outlet and adding a little 45-degree elbow on there. We got everything fitted up, and I ended up getting those tabs we welded on the cross member, or on the sub rails, and it worked out really well. I'm pretty happy with how everything came together. Two little things I still have to do is I'm going to make a thicker gasket for the rubber gasket for the sender because the gas tank is curved. I'm not getting as good of a seal as I would like underneath of there. I was thinking about welding something on to like raise it up and give a flat surface, but I'm actually running into space constraints, so I really can't raise it up a ton or we will be hitting into the deck lid. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I think just putting a little gasket under there that will kind of conform should work out just fine. In the front with the breather tube that I put on there, I ran that all the way down, and basically I was trying to run it through the same hole as where we have the outlet for the gas tank, but the problem is to get the gas tank in with that all out of one piece with the way it had to bend, it just wasn't possible. So I trimmed it right above the floor, and what I'm going to do is probably get a ferrule connector and put one of those like inline ferrule connectors on there, and then I can make that breather hose hardline out of 2 pieces, so we can have a piece that's bent and kind of underneath of the car, and then we can have it all thread together so it's easy to take everything in and out. But a lot of work. When you're working with a car that's channeled or chopped heavily, you really have to get creative with getting stuff to fit, and that's what we did here. What I really like is that we actually still have some trunk space here. I have a little bit of room that we can put a gas tank in there. You could almost fit a spare tire in there, almost. But most importantly, we saved a little bit of space, and we can definitely put a toolbox in there, and it still looks pretty darn cool. It fits really well. So the tank does hold about 10 gallons of fuel, so it's not going to be something we're going to drive cross country in necessarily without making a bunch of stops, but I think that is adequate for the car. You just, like all these cars, everything's not quite convenient. So that's all I have for this one. Thank you guys for following along. Appreciate it. Catch you later.